first off, Stuart, how have things been training this week?
As they've been since I came in, players have trained really well Monday, Tuesday, it was a day off yesterday and we're back in about it again today, so that's not been in question, that's not been the problem all season, I would argue, and I think that's been a general theme. I think the issue that we've found is to the level that our performance stoops to on Saturday, the frustration that comes with that, the anger that comes with it. You guys would have seen that in me, but also we have to acknowledge that we're in a difficult position, and we need to respond somehow. We need to take that responsibility. I spoke about the pressure that comes, a lot of eyes focused on us at this minute in time because of the position we find ourselves in. We have made that position better, absolutely, we have made that position better, but it doesn't feel like that when you see a performance such as the one on Saturday. And I'll go back to it, that's to take nothing away from Queen's Park, they deserved their win, but you know, it was a far cry away from the 3 victories in the league that we've picked up in the last few weeks, and the clean sheets that we've managed to muster up. So in terms of putting your finger on what's wrong and what went wrong, it's quite easy because you can allude back to several better performances.
Is it a reminder for the players whether or not it was needed that there's so much left of this season left to go, you know, highs and lows taken into account?
Of course, yeah, of course. And you tend to get asked questions about 6-pointers and, you know, games with more significance. They're all incredibly significant for us. I think you can get to this stage of the season, possibly find yourself in a position where there's not a great deal to play for. You can be bottom end of the table, top end of the table, and the games all have a level of significance. And as you chalk them off, that emphasis grows, and that's exactly where we are, not for the reasons that we want, but for the reasons that are reality. And as I say, we have to understand that as a football club, as a group. I certainly do. The response from the players this week shows me that they understand it as well. Several of the performances so far have shown me that they understand it, but I think our Achilles heel's been that fluctuation in performance, and not just fluctuation, how far we fall from, you know, previous results and performances.
Just looking ahead to Ayr on Saturday then, what are you expecting from them?
Yeah, I think you're going to find a team that are feeling good about themselves because of a very good victory in the week against St Johnstone, team at the top of the table that have, it's been so well documented how well they've played this season, the consistency in what they do. So for Ayr to go and get that victory, take themselves into the next round of the Cup, I think we've got a reasonable handle of how they'll set up and how they'll play because they're good at it. I think they're one of the very well-rounded teams that they carry a threat at the top end of the park, but they also look to me as if they've got real good experience and cover across the back line as well. So difficult task always to go to Somerset, but it's one that we have to embrace, we have to relish, and we have to go and try and find ourselves back at the levels where, you know, we're putting ourselves at the top of a form table and all these things we spoke about pre-Queen's Park game. We need to go and try and find that level of form. We need to go and find the confidence, and we need to be able to deliver when the pressure's on.
Is Scott Brown a manager you've come across, with you both being in the manager positions?
I think maybe just once, in actual fact, and I think that was a testimonial in the summer. I think maybe just off from memory. I think Stevie Frail here has a really good relationship with Scott for their time at Celtic together. Somebody that Stevie speaks really highly about from a personal side of it. Yeah, I've had a few conversations and crossed paths, but I think everybody understands that with the mentality of Scott, and I think a lot of people allude back to the player, but I'm more so focused on the manager, and I think that's what he would want to be spoken about. Then I think you see somebody that will have a burning desire to try and pick up another performance off the back of a great result on Tuesday, and again for that it then becomes a difficult task for us, but listen, it was never going to be an easy one anyway. I think it's the type of challenge that you can really start to learn a lot about yourself, but I also think it's the type of challenge that can really start to boost confidence as well. So that's how I focus on it, that's how I look at it, and our job between now and Saturday is making sure that we're prepared for what we want to be, but also what Ayr are going to inevitably bring to the party.
Because I imagine as well, I know you said you wanted to focus on, you've both been managers now, but someone you would have come across quite a few times, I imagine, as players as well, during your players.
Yeah, definitely. But again, I think you're probably looking at Scott was just incredibly successful as a player. Of course he was. I think you're probably looking at two people that were unbelievable competitors that would possibly have a fight with their shadow, but I think that would be fair to say, and I think probably taking elements of that into your managerial style, if you like. I don't know, like that phrase, but into how you work, and I think that's just natural. I think most managers do transmit kind of what they were as a person and as a player into their coaching and managerial style, and I think you can see that pretty clearly with Scott.
Any team news?
We've actually got a few issues. We've got 3 or 4 that haven't trained since Saturday, carrying knocks and niggles, a couple of muscle injuries in there. We're hopeful we can get them back on the pitch either today or tomorrow. In the long-term injury front, Josh Reed's been in and not came back out, and Akil Wright and Noah Chilvers are starting to take part in full sessions with the group, so that's been a real plus for me. I know a lot of people have been sitting here asking the question, waiting anxiously to see these guys coming back. I think it's important not to heap too much pressure on them, but I think it's also important to remind people that they are absolutely busting at the seams to try and get back and help their teammates from the position that we find ourselves in. So in relation to those 3 kind of long-termers, they're good players. We all know they're good players at this level and beyond. So I think it'd be fair to say that I'm anxiously waiting to try and get them back involved as well, and pretty certain that they can help us between now and the end of the season.
Yeah, because potentially with those 3 longer term injuries, coming back at a really crucial point of the season as well, that could be massive.
It is, but again, it's this balancing act in modern day football where I have to be careful how much or how little I involve them. So trying to strike that balance is always a bit of an art, I believe. But I think from the 3 guys that I've just mentioned, if you know them and you understand them, you'll understand that they're desperate to get back in, and they're more than prepared to put their body in the line and get back out and help their teammates. So as I say, that will be a real boost to the group once we get them back. It'll feel like 3 new players, unquestionably. Josh Reed I know really well, having sort of brought him through as a teenager here when we were in the Premier League a number of years back. Understand his character really, really well and understand what he does. The other 2 guys in Noah and Akil, I'm starting to get to know them, but I've watched them from afar and I've been a huge admirer watching them last season for Ross County. So these are guys that will be important to us. I firmly believe that between now and the end of the season.
That's all from me, thanks for that.
From what you said, it seems that training's fine, a number of games are fine, but there are just some games where it's just absolutely not happening. How difficult is it to find an explanation for that?
It's difficult, and that question's been asked so many times, not just of me, but of others. But I don't shirk the responsibility. I'm not passing that on to anybody else. It's 100% my responsibility. I think the way that you've addressed it and spoke about it there is on the money. I think if we could all just nail it down and give you one simple answer, we'd be rich people. So that's the tricky part is trying to understand when that level of performance is coming, why it comes. Is it an adversity? Is it when something doesn't quite work out for us? Is it when we don't score the first goal in the game that negative thoughts start to seep in? Because I did say it that I felt that we came up short on Saturday in every facet. But I think it'd be fair to say psychologically that's been a big challenge for the team. I could see psychologically how well the players felt by getting the 3 victories and the clean sheets and grinding their way to a couple of results of late. But for me, it's then how you use that to motivate yourself, to get yourself into the correct position for the next challenge that comes. And we all say it, the question asked just a minute or 2 ago about somebody like a Scott Brown. It's somebody in recent times that we've watched in Scottish football as a player that just had that was that model of consistency, just finding your level, being able to knock out those performances, being able to find ways to win games of football and find ways to be successful. It's that type of mentality that we absolutely need, and I think you're not always going to get that from 11 players or 20 players as it is now in a squad, but if we can get that from 6 or 7 players that really starts to implement it and drive it in others when the times are hard, when the challenges are there, then you can tend to drag out another 10, 15, 20% out of people around about you. And for me, that's the secret in trying to create that environment.
You mentioned psychology there. Clearly physically they can do it because they've done it, they do it in training, they've done it in a number of games, but there are other games they don't. Is there a strong suggestion there is a psychological element here?
Well, I think that I think you're dealing with a wounded animal. I think that's what you are dealing with, because there's been a lot of knocks and a lot of hits over the course of the season, and that's not to try and protect anyone or give anybody a cuddle. That is it. I just said it in another interview a few minutes ago, that in actual fact the question isn't the physical side of it. I looked at the data, as we always do after games, and sometimes you can misconstrue that. The numbers that we actually put out on Saturday are high. They are high when you compare it to other games, victories and other good performances, even comparing and contrasting to other teams that I've worked with. The numbers are high, so we can tell people categorically that the players ran on Saturday, that they poured a lot of energy and a lot of effort into the game, but at times it's silly running, at times it's not being able to read the game of football, not being able to problem solve, not being able to put your stamp on it with a wee bit of composure and a little bit of quality, and finding the solutions to the challenges and the questions that you've been asked. So that can become difficult, because sometimes if we see those numbers really low, we all start saying, well, our team's not running fast enough, they're not running enough, there's no intensity of game. That's actually there. That is actually there, contrary to what a lot of people might feel in defeat. But for us, it's about being smarter in what we do. For us, it's about very simply defending simple situations better than what we did for large parts of the game on Saturday, especially the first 45 minutes, because that just gives the opposition a real incentive in the game. And once you get one or two of these tweaks right, once you get one or two of these things right, which we have done in games, you physically see that confidence build, and then that running starts to transpire into being positive running and influential run.
How frustrating is it? And it's been happening since before you came back. How frustrating is it to get off the bottom and then find yourself back down there again?
It's sore, but we've done that to ourselves. So again, no feeling sorry for ourselves, not overly discussing it. I understand the line of question, I'll always answer it, but for us as a group, it's not to overthink that. It's about taking each game as it comes. It's about trying to find this consistency that I've just spoken about, that level of performance which you know is going to make you competitive in this league, and then off the back of it, you take your chances when they come. Sometimes you get a break of the ball, sometimes you get the better of your direct opponent, and generally in this league I feel that by and large, if you can come out on top of 6 or 7 of those individual battles, then 9 times out of 10 you'll be the team that comes out triumphant at the end of it. And sometimes we just need to simplify that part of it. Yeah, we're trying to build a way that we want to try and play in a consistency that we think will be helpful for us as a group and as a football club, but sometimes it's as simple as playing against your direct opponent and making sure that you come out with the greater percentage of those duels, those battles. And I do think in the Championship, when you do that, you stand a real chance.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
It's hard, Stuart, to talk to you about any kind of positives in the aftermath of the game. It wasn't the moment, I suppose, but one stood out for me was Ross Docherty's performance, particularly in the first half. And is he the kind of stepping forward of a player that you want? You know, you mentioned about a Scott Brown type.
Yeah.
Is that the kind of thing you're looking for from experienced players like him, or from all players?
That's what I'm looking for from all players. I think everybody, Alistair, brings their own part. You know, some are vocal, some it's in what they do, some it's in their energy, some it's in their quality. For me, it's just constantly trying to focus on each player has a super strength. Each player is good at something, and it's trying to find that not just in a game, but make sure that we get it on a daily basis, because that's the opportunity to give yourself a chance, a platform to go and start a game or come off the bench and influence it. But you're right to mention Ross. I know he won't enjoy it, me singling him out. You've asked me the question. But equally, as much as I say I don't hide for the negative side, I'm not going to hide for the positive side either. I feel his level of performance has been so high for us. I thought it was again on Saturday. He was one of the individuals I mentioned that had pass marks. He's out on the training pitch every day. I know he'd had 1 or 2 knocks and niggles and missed a little bit of football, but he's training every day. He looks fit, he looks strong, he understands the game, he understands his position, and he understands how he can influence our team. So it's that level of consistency that we need to try and drag out of more, and that's not to single Ross out to play him off or trade him off against anybody else. It's just very simply, when you see something that's good, I think it's important to say it as well as the negative side.